Hello, my name is Camry Lowy. This is for DHH 638, and this is going to be a lesson that is modified to fit the needs of a pull-out small group PSE students. The first thing that I am discussing is the topic of my original lesson plan, which is to create a book, to read a book called If I Were a Verb, or it's actually called If You Were a Verb, and that discusses different verbs with an explanation and kind of a fun story for second graders. And then the students will be able to create their own book, and that is If I Were a Verb, and using verbs and pointing them out in their own story. And that is going to be completed by developing a graphic organizer, some sentence drafts for each page, as well as corresponding pictures. So as far as my modifications go for this lesson, the first modification that I have chosen to acknowledge for PSE students is to make sure that you're writing down all of the directions as well as behavior expectations as a visual up on the board or in individual packets or on a piece of paper so that they know what to expect and when to expect it. I think that's a really important concept to include. It helps keep them on task. It helps for them to realize if they've missed any information and they're able to reference back to that. For learner outcomes, you can view my my original learner outcomes on the lesson plan that I submitted, but pretty much the modifications that I'm going to be choosing for these students is to create a verb-based book called If I Were a Verb, using sentences that are partially developed, more like fill in the blanks, in order to promote language development and correct sentence structure, along with pictures to help with further retention. PSE students will not be required to create a graphic organizer or sentence structure draft because these sentences are already going to be prefabricated for them with fill-in-the-blank options. Students that use PSE have this very mixed ASL, English grammar language, so it's difficult for them to sometimes focus as well as use the correct grammar in sentences. So by providing them with the overall idea of what the sentence should say, and then allowing them to choose from a variety of options, we're really focusing on what a verb is, choosing a beginning, middle, and ending of a story, which is the primary focus of this lesson. Another thing that I'm going to be asking these students to do is to differentiate between past, present, and future verbs with the endings of the ed for past, etc. So, and that will be involved in the options that they choose for the fill in the blank. As far as measuring of mastery, it's important to focus on the sentence structure and the correct placement of vocabulary for these students, I think. So they will still be given a choice, but I will be able to assist them with that one-on-one instruction since it is a small pull-out group, as well as determining if they're correctly choosing the right word or the right verb to fit that sentence. The choices are very obvious, actually, so their chance of missing it will be very obvious to me that they don't understand the idea behind the lesson or what a verb really is. Pre-assessment activities, you can view the original ones online. The ones that I've modified are highlighted in yellow, so provide visuals through acting, videos, and pictures, convert the story into PSE, Pigeon Signed English, for ample understanding, connect verbs to prior background knowledge and experience by asking activities that they've been involved in and then pointing out the verbs within those activities, and then provide a visual of a sentence with fill in the blanks on the board and then a list of examples on how to determine which one best fits the story. So for example, I chose all day long Mary blank with 2 feet around the house like she was a bunny. And then we give them a list of option words, and those option words are consisting of eat, bake, hopped, or skate. And they're going to have to determine which one fits best, which would be hopped. And they're using those context clues like bunny, 2 feet, etc. Continuing on to differentiation. Again, we're going to want to modify the verb vocabulary to fit the needs of the student. We're not going to want to make things too difficult. We are trying to accomplish a retention as well as a growth in verb vocabulary, so starting them too high is just going to confuse them, not propel them forward. And again, provide sentences that have been pre-developed to fill in the blank opportunities and multiple choice answers. Materials and resources that need to be used. Prefabricated fill in the blank if I were a verb. Additional visual resources such as computers, videos, picture aids, PowerPoints, and dramatic play and acting. And then, so for our learning activities, the students will be asked to still list words, the first thing that the teacher will do is to act out a series of verbs without verbally saying anything and see if the students will be able to guess, and then we'll create then the teacher will be able to explain what a verb is, what she acted out, and then, excuse me one second. And then in that small table group, the students will be able to talk amongst themselves, or sign amongst themselves, sorry, to determine more examples of what verbs they can come up with. And again, that's going to be like a peer-to-peer interaction. Once the students have finished collaborating with each other, they'll give examples of what they have said and verbs. They can sign them, they can act them, they can draw pictures. So there's a variety of ways for them to demonstrate their understanding of what a verb is. Students will also receive a series of practice sentences on the board with prefabricated or fill-in-the-blank opportunities and choices, and then they'll work in their small groups together as a team to fit the right words within that sentence. Once they've accomplished that, then they'll be able to get a piece of paper that has prefabricated sentences on there and try and complete them on their own, and that's what this looks like right here. So fill in the blank. My dog likes to blank on me when I get home. So does he like to eat, does he like to jump, or does he like to whisper? We're hoping that this is a pretty obvious answer. They're using, again, the context clues, and the right answer is going to be jump. So again, examples of what they'd be able to do. One of the last steps the students will be able to do is they'll get a pre-made if I were a verb book that has the fill-in-the-blank sentences, but they won't have the multiple options this time. They will be able to choose different things, hopefully that they've learned, different verbs, to kind of create it and make it their own at this point, and then draw a picture. So for example, here's a book that I kind of created if I were a verb. So if you see everything that is underlined in yellow here, those are the spots that you'll see that would eventually be blank, but they still will have the same outline of the story. I apologize if this is backwards, it's just due to my camera. But again, and then draw pictures that reference. So each book will be different based on what the students choose in the verbs, as well as the pictures that they choose to draw. And then the students in that small group are going to come together after they finish their book and share their stories and talk about the different verbs that they used. Again, checking for understanding is throughout the entire lesson within that small group, discussion, the fill-in-the-blank aspect of it, the overall completion of the If I Were a Verb book. And lastly, just the guided practice was going to be the visual sentence for the fill-in-the-blank on the board in the small group, and the potential would be if I were a verb book, if they needed additional help on that. Independent practice is presentation to their small group if I were a verb book. And that is about it. So I hope you appreciate my modification for students or PSE signed small pull-out group students. Thank you.